They've had it for. Yeah, I did the chorus.
Okay, I'll call to order the meeting Monday, May 13th, 2024. To order, I ask all who have not signed in, please do so. Please turn off all cell phones and other electronic devices, and please conduct any private conversations in the hallway or outside. This meeting room is equipped with inductive loop hearing assistance. You will be able to hear conversations through the microphones on hearing aids with a T-switch. Emergency exits can be found to your right and to your left. This meeting is also streamed via YouTube with text commenting available. At this time, if you please join us in a salute to the flag.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well, good evening and welcome, everyone. You students, feel free to come up front. I mean, Mr. Nankin, that's his assigned seat. That's part of his tax bill, but you're more than welcome to come up. But we do appreciate your attendance here this evening. I want to start off by declaring Councilman Cusimano necessarily absent this evening. Reminder, all town facilities will be closed on Monday, May 27th for Memorial Day. The Memorial Day Parade lineup begins at 10 a.m. at the Victor Central School campus in front of the Early Childhood Center. Parade starts at 10:30 with the ceremony in front of Village Hall following the conclusion of the parade. Approval of meeting minutes. Board members had an opportunity to review the Monday, April 22nd Town Board meeting minutes. Any changes, corrections, or comments?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Payment of bills. We have a manifest 9A and a 9B. I'll ask the town clerk to please introduce them both.
Manifest 9A in the amount of $9,871.70 has been reviewed by the Victor Town Board with the following accounts charged: General Townwide, General Outside Village, the lighting districts of Fishers, Brookwood Meadows, High Point, Cobblestone, Quail Ridge, Rolling Meadows, Stone Lay, and Legacy at the Fairways. Manifest number 9B in the amount of $200,846.57 has been reviewed by the Victor Town Board with the following accounts charged: General Townwide, General Outside Village, Parkland Trust Fund, Highway Townwide, S&S Consolidated Sewer Fund, and Trust and Agency.
Aaron, thank you. I appreciate introducing them, and also want to welcome you back as well. So, welcome. So, up on the screen, Manifest 9A has a payment from RG&E, and the total of the above-mentioned expenditures is $2,500. Under total abstract 9B, first payment is to Finger Lakes Environmental. And again, what we found out through the demolition is that actually our original quote was for 50 tons, and they ended up with removing 80 tons of to the landfill, as we found out and mentioned previously here, that unfortunately it became a dump site for folks that probably did not have a recycle permit and thought refrigerators along the tree belt looked better than other rubbish. So,
Looks great over there, by the way.
Yep, looks good.
yep. Thank you, appreciate that, and appreciate the photos you continually provided the board members with. Payment number 2 to Harris Beach, legal fees or our chargebacks in that invoice for $10,081.26. Payment number 3 to Integrated Systems, May Hosting, payment to Labella Associates, chargebacks as well within that invoice, payment to the New York State Comptroller's Office for the March court fees, and payment to Ontario County Sheriff's Office for court and patrol services. Total of the above mentioned expenditures is $121,713.55. Total town expenditures minus the previous mentioned expenditures equals $79,133.02. Board, if there's any concerns, I'd like to take both 9A and 9B as a block, if there's no objections to that.
Objection.
No objection.
No objections. I just had a question on the Richardson Road demolition, because I think you guys voted on this before I got on the board to actually demolish it. We don't have any sort of like, recourse to get any of that money because the owners of the property kind of up and left, right?
Well, the town can lien the property for the amount that we've expended on it. The property's already, I believe, subject to unpaid county tax liens. So, yeah, we will lien that property for the amount of money we've spent on it now. I can't say that if that property's ever sold, you'd recoup the entire amount, but that's the best way to protect, what we've spent out there.
So does the county then sell it or auction it off, the property, or?
Correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Supervisor, I think that's kind of what triggered a lot of this, was the
Correct.
county was wanting to sell it, and then it turned out they'd learned that it was contaminated,
Oh, okay.
Yep. there-
and then they didn't want to foreclose on the
Yep.
property.
No, you're absolutely right. There was a individual that bid on it, and
Down a deposit.
Yeah.
he went to inspect it and found the basement was filled with a mixture of oil, water, and other forms of contamination. So at this point, the county, and Frank, correct me if I'm wrong, would we, the question raised, would we then be in line based on taxes paid first?
Yeah. That's a very good question, Mr. Supervisor. I mean, I believe also the state of New York expended money remediating that property, and I believe, I would assume that number is a lot larger than 41,000. So unfortunately, I think our lien will probably be subordinate to the tax lien and potentially the state lien on it as well.
Yeah, thank
Well,
you.
and the bigger issue too is, I don't know if the lot's worth 41,000, period.
Yeah.
So by the time they get ready to sell it, I mean, it's not a great building lot, and according to today's code, I don't know if it's wide, it might be wide enough, but what is it, Mark? It's I think it's an acre maybe tops. It's not-
Close to the road.
Yeah, I mean, the house had a setback at that time when it was built, the setback had to be about 25 feet, so it was right there at the road.
I assume the neighboring property owners are very happy.
They are very happy.
Because they were coming in on a regular basis, very unhappy
Yeah.
before this all occurred.
No, thanks for reminding us about the DEC, because clearly they took out a significant amount of rubbish, contamination, and soil as well, so.
Another example, really, when you look at where the burden lies, right? The burden ends up coming back to the local, where you would think you would be able to get more help from the state, from the DEC, from, the county, even the county. They're going after the back taxes, but who's left holding the bag to clean it up and protect its residents, but it's the town board.
There used to be a state program called the Environmental Restoration Program that actually did provide grants to municipalities to do exactly what we did. But the state Albany stopped funding that program.
The minute the DEC discovered how close to the body of water and the marshland that the contamination was, they jumped into action quite a bit faster than they ordinarily would, and that was immediately taken on with them, so.
Well, great comments, everyone. Thank you. Appreciate the legal advice. On that note, if there's no objections, then we'll take 9A and 9B as the block,
So
so,
moved.
Second.
okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, next, privilege of the floor, Mr. Tom Zuber here with us.
Good evening. Yeah, I wasn't sure if there's a clicker or.
Oh, she can move it forward?
Yeah.
All right, great. Well, you could just go to the next page, how's that sound? So, but good evening here. Thank you for inviting me here tonight. Again, my name's Tom Zuber. I'm one of the partners with the firm Mangum Escobar. We're your auditors, okay, your external auditors. And I'm pleased to be here tonight to just report on the completion of the audit of the basic financial statements for the town as of December 31st, 2023. So you should have received in your board packets copies of the basic financial statements and any internal control communication. And just up on the slides are just a quick couple bullet point summaries of kind of some of the key items that we talked about. But there's a lot of good information in that basic financial statement. It's roughly about a 60-page document. There's our audit opinion. There's also what's called a management discussion and analysis. That's about 10 pages long. And that's a nice summary of some of the highlights I'll give you tonight. But it's a nice summary that talks about some of the year-over-year variances. It talks about some of the budget variances as well as some factors that will impact the town going forward. So the intent of that document is just to give you a quick, give the reader a quick summary of what took place during the year. So I'll try and bullet point a couple of those items as we walk through. But we did issue an unqualified opinion. No material weaknesses or significant deficiencies. So that really is what you're looking for when it comes to the audit of the basic financial statement. So that basically says the information is free of material misstatements. So that's really the standard language that you're looking for. But there are a considerable number of challenges that municipalities continue to face, continue with the property tax cap, inflation's costs associated with employee benefits, and even, making sure you're dealing with the federal stimulus dollars, right? They can be challenging when you get these one-time dollars for projects to make sure you're in compliance with all of the rules and regulations out there. So, there's always continues to be challenges out there. The town continues to be in good financial position. You ended the year in a very strong financial position. The couple different factors that really played into the role of that is sales tax continues to be very strong in this county, so that's very positive. It was up overall to a little over 2.1% in total for the town. Departmental income, we're back to pre-COVID levels in your rec departments, things of that nature. So again, some strong positive results there. In investment earnings, we've seen some very strong investment earnings. Obviously, that's kind of the offset of that is inflation, right? So you have seen some very strong investment earnings, and how long will that continue to be, is something that everybody's watching. It's kind of interesting. We did see some challenges in the mortgage tax revenues, so we did see those go down this year. So again, kind of back to where we were, I think, about 2 years ago. Okay, so you had really a blip in that because of the activity, and that's kind of come down from 1 year to the next. So again, you did end the year in very strong financial position. Again, some of those key areas that led to the very positive financial results. And as a result, the board did approve funding some of the different reserves that are out there. Certainly, that really is an important aspect, the long-term financial plan of the town, kind of taking a look at some of the current year financial results and really allocating those into some of the reserves that will help the town utilize or purchase things like significant equipment or help build certain, buildings as part of the long-term capital plan of the town. So again, very positive financial results looking at where we're at the end of the year. And one of those things that the district did, or the town did, if you recall, is you do have a fund balance policy that talks about the level of targeted fund balance in some of the major funds, right? And then how does the town react to that? And part of that reaction was funding some of those reserves. Okay, so again, very positive financial results. I'll just touch base on a couple of the funds, the major funds real quick. The general fund, if you want to just hit the next slide again. And this is just a snapshot, and we talked a little bit about
the funding or the long-term financial plan. So this is just the equity in the general fund. Here's a couple items to note. You can see the capital reserves there, a little over $8.6 million in the capital type reserves that you have. Again, the board has approved those reserves in the past, and the board approves the funding of those reserves. And you did allocate a little over $2.5 million into those reserves during the year, and you did spend a little bit out of those reserves during the year as well. But again, those reserves are earmarked for specific purposes. Your undesignated fund balance at $2.7 million. That's right around that targeted range that you have in terms of your fund balance policy, okay? And then in terms of the revenue expense, you can see the revenues are up slightly from last year, partly because of the sales tax revenues as well as the departmental income. And then your total expenditures you see are down. If you recall, last year at the end of the year, or last year, you did purchase some property the end of the year, okay? So that's where you see that reduction in the expenditures, okay? So in 2022, you had a substantial purchase of land, okay? Didn't happen this year. So that was just kind of the key items in the general fund. The next slide is just the part-town fund again. Just to note on that next slide, relating to the part-town fund. Again, this just a quick discussion of the equities, a little over $1.6 million in total fund balance. Just to keep in mind, this is the fund that primarily is funded with sales tax, right? You've got your two part-town funds where the sales tax has to go into those funds first, okay? So you don't have a property tax levy in this fund. And once these funds are fully supported, then the sales tax can be allocated to the general fund. So that's what the town is doing when it comes to that. Again, the revenue and expenditures here are fairly consistent from one year to the next. And then you see you're supporting next year's budget with $500,000 of equity. So again, it means you're balancing or using some of that rollover dollars to support next year's budget. So again, part-town fund, fairly consistent from one year to the next. The next slide is just the highway part-town. Again, another major fund. A little over $9.8 million in this fund. Again, just to keep in mind, your capital reserve here, a little over $4.7 million in your capital reserve for building and equipment, right? You have some pretty substantial equipment that comes out of some of these funds. So again, you've got some dollars in there relating to the building reserve and equipment reserve. Again, very strong fund balance in this particular fund, a little over $4.2 million in unassigned fund balance. So the two major categories there, your reserves and your unassigned fund balance for this particular program. Again, revenues, expenditures, fairly consistent from last year. Again, the increase in the revenue, primarily the interest earnings in the fund from one year to the next, as well as the sales tax growth, okay? So again, the next slide, just a quick summary of the entity-wide statement. So this is where we try and make the town look more like a corporation. I say we, but it's the Governmental Accounting Standards Board, GASB, that's out there. And so what they do is they consolidate all of the town funds into a single column, and they include all of your capital assets on the top half of the page, okay? All of your long-term obligations, the middle half of the page, and on the bottom half of the page, your equities, your net position. And you can see you have $67 million in a net position. However, the majority of that you see is in your net investment in capital assets. So what is that? That's all of the net value of your roads, your bridges, your infrastructure, so any water and sewer lines that you own, buildings and so forth. So that's that overall net investment in capital assets. You see your capital reserves, and then your unassigned fund balance, okay? So again, I think the positive takeaway from this statement really isn't a useful statement in terms of it's not how you operate, right? You have your different funds that we just walked through, the major funds of the town. But this really tells a story in terms of when we look at, what are your long-term obligations, right? And you see that unrestricted number, that $7 million, that's a positive number. That's actually very good for a town this size. We have some clients where that number's negative. And primarily because they have a lot of long-term obligations that they can't fund, right? And the biggest piece of that is the retiree health. If you just flip to the next slide, this just is the components of that. And again, you've got your long-term obligations, your bonds, your net pension liability. So the New York State retirement system, you have to include your share of the unfunded pension system. That's about $1.8 million. You've got your OPEB, which is your retiree health obligation, about $2.5 million. So again, what that story that tells me is that you've done a very good job in managing, that retiree health obligation, because that is fairly substantial in many municipalities out there. So you've done a nice job of that. So again, overall, you did end the year in very good financial position, okay? So that's a quick summary of the financial information. The last slide is just really a quick summary of the internal control items. Again, as part of the audit process, we look at the different internal controls and checks and balances over the different financial cycles, and again, spending some time documenting all of the different checks and balances you have over the payroll processes and procedures, or the disbursement, the procurement process and procedures. And again, no material weaknesses or significant deficiencies. Couple minor items relating to quotations and biddings, just to remind your departments about making sure you're maintaining documentation for procurement or the items that you're bidding. Okay, so again, very minor items. And then we also looked at the town courts. Okay, and again, just one minor item in the town courts that we noted in terms of getting the dollars into the bank within a 72-hour period. So again, overall, very positive financial results. You continue to see some strong returns in not only the investment areas, but also the sales tax. You're taking and looking at your financial position at the end of the year and allocating some of those dollars into your reserves, really to kind of follow that long-term financial plan of the town. Okay? Any questions on that?
Oh, Tom, thank you, first of all, for coming out. Appreciate it. And certainly, I know each board member, we have a lot to, thank Rich O'Donnell, Director of Finance for the town. Certainly, I owe a lot to the town board for their continued support, but all of our department heads as well. Certainly, when we go through the budget guidelines, following those budget guidelines, staying within. Our highway superintendent, when you mentioned the highway budget, we sit with Mark, and Mark forecasts 5 to 10 years out, and, continued planning. And certainly, we as a board, a number of years ago, made a financial commitment that, there's some tweaks, and I know he had to make a tweak already this year because one project that thought would be a little easier, sometimes it's like the onion. When you start peeling it back, it's a little tougher. So he's pivoting on that one. But again, we financially, we've made a commitment from $1.8 to $2.1 million every year to reinvest into our roads, whether it's just general maintenance or capital projects. So I think with that certainly has provided us with the financial tools to assist, so hopefully we don't have to be out there borrowing much in the way of money. So, but Rich, again, thank you, and again to all of our employees and our department heads for their continued support as well. Any questions for Tom?
On the, you said there were 2 minor items noted for bidding and quoting. Was that not in compliance with our town procurement policy or with the state procurement policy for municipalities?
Yeah, so you have the state policy, you have a procurement policy that talks about obtaining bidding and quotations, and so one of them was we didn't see the different quotes that you received for a certain purchase. So that the state law says you have to have a policy that talks about, procuring things below a certain threshold, right? So one of those items was, the written quotations that you should maintain. And we're not saying you didn't do the quotations, you just didn't save the documentation, okay? And then the other item was something that I think it exceeded the bid thresholds for publicly bidding an item, but I don't believe it was anticipated initially.
Okay. And then, so on the first one though, our procurement policy is more strict than the state procurement policy?
Well, the state said, the state says you have to set thresholds for quotations below the required bidding.
Okay.
So you've chosen what those thresholds are. So
Okay.
there's just one instance where you didn't have the documentation.
We're more strict. than the state, to answer your
that's what I
question.
thought.
We're more strict than the state. And I think what happened is, they didn't save them, right? Or something.
Yeah, we comply with the state, right?
There was a rental of a piece of equipment.
Yep.
For what we thought was going to be a week.
Yep,
Oh, it ended up being longer,
$1,500 for a
yeah.
week. It ended up being 4 weeks.
yep.
So it went from 1,500 to 6,000.
Okay.
And we really didn't go back and ask them to update the code or anything. So if you looked at it, the original quote at 1,500, invoice came in for 6,000.
Right.
And there wasn't attachments.
Oh,
Should have
that's
updated.
nothing.
Yeah.
Okay. And then, so when we set the limit, though, as the town board, we're more strict, because isn't the state like, what, 25 for certain and 35 for others?
Well, again, there's two different criteria we're talking
Okay.
about right now. The first criteria, there's section 103B and 104 of general municipal law.
Yep.
104 talks about having, quote, a process for purchases under the required public bidding threshold. And again, the
Okay.
town board sets those levels. So there's not
Kinda
necessarily
self-enforced?
a state level. You just have to develop those levels and make sure that you're complying with those levels. And the other threshold is the required minimums at the state level, right? So let's just say, for example, the federal government is much, those thresholds are much higher than what your thresholds are. So you have a stricter threshold than what the federal government says, okay? So for example, when you're purchasing federal, using federal dollars for
Yeah.
purchases, your policy is much stricter than what the federal government is.
Oh,
So, yep. And your policy, obviously, the state's a much larger organization. Their procurement requirements are different than yours,
Okay.
right, when it comes to bidding and quotation,
Okay, thank you.
okay?
Any other questions for Tom? Okay, Tom, again, thank you, appreciate it.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Okay, next is, actually, before I get into reports, public comments and concerns, I just want to, and I should have announced, Brian Emelson could not be with us here this evening. His wife is actually receiving an award, and Keith Maynard has unfortunately had a personnel matter, had to take him out of town, so next is public comment and concerns. Opportunity for members of the public to address the town board. Okay, under reports of town officials, there's just one report. It is the Director of Finance with a first quarter update. Questions for Rich?
Rich, I find these really helpful. They're clear, they're concise, it's, and you've always explained if something's already at 100%, it's usually contractual, that's why it's been spent in the first quarter, as opposed to something lagging out. I remember my first year, I was always worried that, where are we going with this? And then you'd say, no, it was contractual, so it got spent early on. So I think that when you started doing these, I think it made it a lot clearer and a lot easier for us as a board to follow along, to see where we were spending our money and how it was going out. So I appreciate it.
One thing I want
Hey, Rich, you want to use the microphone?
Use a mic.
to is, seen somewhere they've actually could see unrestricted. You'll see.
You gotta be careful with that, though. You see it, and then they say, oh, hey, we can spend that. It's like looking at your own checking account. This looks like a good month, might go shopping,
Rich, while you're up there, is this the last year the town pays Modoc Springs amount? Oh, okay.
Yeah,
More years? Sorry, I just,
you know actually when
I can
Yeah.
follow up and find out.
I think it comes back.
I think it does come back,
I
but I
mean, we
think,
have some, I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah, yes, and we paid out 2 individuals early on, and they could only, at that time, because they asked for the early payout, it was maximum, I think it was $10,000. And then there was one other individual who felt that he was harmed, but it was probably in the $100,000 range, and he had to wait until the 10-year period went through before he could be paid out. I haven't heard from him in years, but based on assessments and,
They certainly have been hurt. They have been hurt as far as assessments are concerned. Yeah,
good question. Okay, I have a couple items, just real quick. I want to thank all the board members and certainly another for attending the 18th Annual Business Awards Luncheon, another successful event, great opportunity to hear our keynote speaker, Brian Ray, but also certainly recognize and thank these businesses for their continued efforts here in the town of Victor. I did receive a thank you card from the Community Clothes Closet, which is a kitty corner to this building, and they were thanking our town employees for the dress down day on Friday, the opportunity for a small amount of money, but for them it goes a long ways. And Casey did share recently with Rich and I that the CHIPS money from the state of New York was a slight increase of $2,946.89, but actually they put money into 4 buckets for our highway superintendent, total for CHIPS, Pave New York, Extreme Winter, and Pave Our Potholes for a total of $353,808.86. So I'm sure Mark will put it to good use for this coming year. Okay, that's all I have. Town board members, have any committees you'd care to report on? Any activities that you have been involved with?
I would just say that I'm finishing up my quarter with the planning board. I was talking to Alexis a little bit about, there's an interesting dilemma right now in which a property owner is trying to get permission after the fact, right, of some stuff that he's done. And I think it goes to say, as they follow through, I think the planning board is doing a really good professional job at trying to work this out with a landowner who's been egreged versus the landowner who's done some of the work. And, you try to be a good neighbor, but if you don't get involved, if you don't step up, if you don't ask questions, that's when things happen. And our town, Joe Logan and the planning board, they're really professional guys. And I just publicly want to say that, I think they're handling a difficult situation, and it's not over. But I think that they will work and get the parties to compromise. There might be some legal that will have to get involved in it, obviously, but I think they're doing the best they can with it. And so now Alexis gets to enjoy that for the next quarter, so.
Yeah, it looks like a packed agenda tomorrow.
Yeah, right.
Looking forward to it.
But that's all that I have.
Oh, our town clerk has something that I forgot about her.
All right. The DOT completed the traffic review for Champion Reserve and the Fairways subdivision. They didn't have a speed limit there, so it was determined that 30 miles an hour speed limit is appropriate, and the speed zone is being processed for filing with the Secretary of the State, and so if it's approved there, then the signs can be put up.
Good. Thank you, Karen. Any other board members?
Just a couple things. Attended a meeting with Mike Stockman over at Parks and Anita with Rochester Accessibility Adventures to discuss adult changing stations. So we're hoping to put together something by July, proposal to department and town board about where we put them, different options, etc. One thing I asked her to look at was, can we use them for babies? Because we're a little limited on space at some of our parks. 2 we're looking at Victor Municipal and Dreyer. And if we had to do, not had to, but if we were looking at just putting 1 in for the adult and you could also fit a baby on there, I think that'd be really helpful. And quite frankly, I think as someone who uses the baby changing stations quite often, it would be nice to be able to put your bag on the longer table with the baby and not have to kind of balance too. So we're hoping we'll be able to do that. But more news to come. And then attended the village board meeting last week. They had just completed the flags in the front, so want to give a thank you to them for doing that. I think somebody from Highway was also there. So thank you guys that was really quick getting it done. Solar Task Force met, when we have another meeting this coming week. We're still looking at kind of like zoning, et cetera, a couple different things, but we're working really fast, and I'm hoping we're stay within that 6-month moratorium. I've got planning board meeting tomorrow, and as Councilman kind of alluded, I've just finished up with Conservation Board. I don't know, because I haven't had a chance to look at the liaison list, but who Conservation Board is for this quarter. Because I noticed when I was watching the video that no board members had gone. So if somebody can't make it, I'm always happy to try and go. And then did training with all the town employees a couple weeks ago. It was a nice afternoon here. And had a question about, when you mentioned DOT, about the school zone over on High Street. I don't know if we have an update on it. I think I saw one of the signs. But I know the village has been kind of working back and forth. I think they finally decided that they are not changing the speed limit down to 25. They're going to keep the speed limit at 30 for their section of High Street.
40, that's what it's going to stay.
Yeah.
And I noticed that along those lines, I have been pleased to see our additional law enforcement trafficking. They park down by the old School of Religion.
Oh, nice.
So if you're coming down past St. Pat's Cemetery and you're still tooling at 40, they're going to pull you over. So, you know, you can hit that, and the flashing lights, I think, are a big help crossing over into Piper Meadows. So I think people, since we had that accident, I think people are certainly much more aware, and I think they're sitting in Piper Meadows patrolling, you know, especially when you get new licenses coming up here this spring, right? So you got new kids driving, although they all can't drive to school. But I think that there's an awareness that it's going from 40 to 30, and you got that school zone sign that flashes 24/7 coming through there. I wish it was 30 to 25 through there, but I'm happy that they're patrolling it, and I think people are aware. So I think that definitely
Oh,
helps.
that's nice. I haven't,
Yeah.
it's been so long since I've
Yeah.
gone up there on a school day, so.
Yeah,
haven't
so
seen
I
it,
do
that's
think
good.
I do think it's better.
Nice. Other than that, I got nothing.
The only comment I would make about the changing stations and stuff like that is, I do think, and I would defer to Frank for legal, but I think the law in 2017 or 2018 said that your grandfather, like, you don't have to do those things necessarily if your structure was done before 17. But any renovation, any major renovation you do, those are required now by law, that you have to put them in. But I'm not sure, but I'm pretty sure that that's there. So the only thing I would say is that, you know, is we want to make sure that we have money in the budget. We want to make sure that maybe we can get some grant money to do them. I don't know.
Yeah.
And I don't know how much they're going to cost, but, you know, we got a lot of items on there. I mean, I know you're driven with the 1-year-old. I get that. And I know people want them, but I just want us to make sure that we're moving prudently with that too.
Yeah, and we've looked at trying to configure it to be as most cost efficient. By, right now, we have the male and the female bathroom to look at maybe converting one to like a family bathroom so that we don't have to put 2 in, just because we're very limited on space. And that's for either, for the adult changing station. If we were to do baby, I think we'd just put 1 in each because it's much easier to do. And then we'd be able to keep two stalls in each bathroom at each town park. So we're working on the numbers right now, and there's a lot of grant money out there, not really for the baby changing stations, but for the adult changing stations. Those are obviously gonna be a little bit more costly, but I think, and especially after talking with Anita from RAA, that I think we'll definitely reap the benefits of them. The only towns that have them right now are Fairport. Canandaigua will just be opening one this summer at their Motion Junction Park, and that's it. So we'll be one of the only towns to kind of be a leader in this. And then a very small handful of the new rest stops on the thruway will have those too.
When you say Fairport, you're talking Parrington or just the
The
village?
Village of Fairport. They built a new bathroom last year, I believe, 2 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Councilman Guinan, you good?
Good.
Okay.
The only thing I want to make a comment, and you already brought it up, that I wanted to, and there's not a lot of public here tonight, but I do want to recommend, I do want to thank Kathy and Gina for that dinner, and when they put it on the other day, there was a lot of hard work that went into the planning of that and working with Ravenwood, and they did a great job with that whole event and the planning and afterwards and the cleanup and the follow-up. And so if nothing else, if everybody could, reach out to each one of those two and just comment on the job that they did for that thing. It was great because they worked really hard.
Thank you for recognizing both of them, and to add to the confusion for poor Gina, she was in the midst of planning for her wedding, and she actually got married this past Saturday, so thank God she didn't commingle anything, that would have but it worked out well for her, so congratulations to her.
Did she put a reception out to bid?
Okay, moving to the resolutions, out of the Parks Department, we have a
Supervisor, can we block 1 through 4, since they're all agreements for our summer programs?
we can certainly block 1 through 4. They are all contracts, very similar.
Before we vote on those, I just had a question for Frank. At the top of the agreement, it doesn't have a date. Does that just get filled in after we approve it
After
tonight?
it's approved, they'll be filled in.
Okay.
Okay. Councilman Condon has offered 1 through 4 as a block. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? 1 through 4 have been approved. Number 5, request for certificate of liability insurance. Again, these are the 4 that we just approved for some
So moved.
waiver. Okay.
Second.
Second by Councilman Guinan. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Number 5 is passed. Number 6, limited permission alcoholic beverage permit for the summer concert series.
So moved.
I just had a question on this one too. I know David heard back from you, and same for Supervisor Marin. But on the 3 servings of alcohol per person for the concert series for 2.5 hours. I know you mentioned, Supervisor Marin, that people come like a half hour before, stay a little late. Do we serve the alcohol a half hour before, or does it stay open a little late? My only concern is that we're giving people alcohol within 2.5 hour period. They can have up to 3. That's my only thought. I don't know, that might be a question for Brian, but I know he's not here.
So you want my true opinion? I think we should increase it then. Well, you're asking an Irish guy,
Well, Brian will say that there hasn't been any issues ever
Okay.
with it.
Yeah.
And I think,
Yeah, I didn't see
like Jack said earlier, the one thing you worry about is people bringing in their own, and there's other refreshments, I guess you would call them, that people show up having already consumed those or eaten those, I don't know. So,
All legal activities.
yeah, all legal
That's
activity.
very true, yeah.
But my point is that to go to one of these events and to sit and listen to the concert series, these are people that are just chilling on a beautiful Thursday night, and they love this program, the people that attend it. And if you get an opportunity, anybody in the town, and anybody is watching, if you get an opportunity or Thursday, you should really try to attend 1 or 2 of them. Get there early so you get a close seat.
Oh, yeah. It gets
the
packed.
lawn chairs, park it right out, but I don't think it's a
To your
issue.
point, I think you'd be far more concerned if you allow people to bring alcohol outside in.
Yeah, yeah,
By this, at least you're controlling it.
yeah.
And I doubt that Twin Elder Brewery would want to expose themselves to liability by over-serving food.
Yeah, right.
And you're right about the carry-on, because that's been a challenge periodically. Early in our initial years of running these concerts, but that's still, and this coming year, it'll be the same thing. There'll be a few coming in with their old
Yeah, you
carry-ons.
have to educate them.
Yep, so,
Do we have like not security, but do we have any staff out there at all telling people no? Because I've just always walked from the
Yep.
back end through Jacob's Landing.
There's always park and recs people working it.
Yeah.
our park staff when they're parking people. And then Brian's usually there. He tries to be near the food area when they start coming in and could see the people with the carry-on. But, we're not, and I think council mentioned it, our food vendor, our beer vendor certainly doesn't want to jeopardize their renewal with the town or their own liquor license. So
Do they
it's,
take the liability then for this? Or is it on us?
They have a certificate of insurance that names the town of Victor as an additional name insured.
Yeah.
So if there's any incident that occurs associated with them serving alcohol, and the town were named a party, their insurance company has to step up and defend the town.
Okay. Nice.
okay, any other comments? Okay, did we get the,
Second.
we need a second?
Got it, Alexis.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Moving to number 7, award of bid 2022 pump station improvements.
So moved.
Second.
Okay,
On this one,
yes.
is there any way in the future that we could get, because I know we got them this afternoon at like 3 o'clock, the bids included in our packets, or at least the recommended bid in our packet, just because even when we've had things in the past, like the highway department purchasing things, or last meeting it was mulch for one of our town parks, we had all the quotes in our packet, and for a $2.8 million project, we'd just like to make sure we kind of dot our i's and we're the ones voting on it, have the backup.
I don't have a problem with that request, but keep it at a PDF, because they're 95 to 100 pages long, and there'd be each. And my personal opinion is, that's what we're paying him for. That's what we're paying our engineers for. That's what we're paying Keith for. And so when the resolution comes to us, it's coming to us in good faith that the people that we employ have done their due diligence, and I accept that, and that procedure's worked well for me. But by all means, I remember the first year I wanted to look at a bid, and after I read 60 of the 95 pages and didn't understand half of it, I had to accept the professionals who were putting it forth, I guess, is the best way I can say it.
Yeah, just my only comment, I guess, on that one would just be, and I trust the bid process and everything, and I don't have a problem with the recommendation, but it's almost a, kind of the buck stops here with the town board. Yes, we get the recommendation, but we're the ones who are not voting on a $2.8 million project, so that's why I just like to at least see the information. I don't want to have to siphon through all of it and do the interviews. That's definitely why we have departments and, contract with Labella, but just so that we know what we're voting on.
Okay. Any other comments? You have a first and a second? Okay. All those in favor signify by...
Can we get a second?
Yes.
Yes, I did.
Mike?
Yeah.
Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, number 7 is passed. Moving to number 8, acceptance of the 2023 Town Financial Audit Report.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Number 9, approving the settlement of pending tax assessment litigation. This has to do with the Home Depot. And, let's see, Sheila Shalafo, actually settled and no refunds to be paid.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Number 10, and we periodically get these, and this is a approval of acquisition on the easement for allowing Monroe County. There's 2 areas in our town that they're looking to provide some water on County Road 9 and Brace Road.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Number 11, this is the acceptance by the town board of the Consolidated Sewer District Engineers Report for 805 Wagham Road and scheduling of the public hearing to be held on May the 28th at 7 p.m.
Just want to note on this one that there was a corrected short EAF that was sent out, just to make sure that everyone saw the email.
Yep. So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Number 12, accept the letter of credit, Highline Park Phase 1 and release grading and surety. And again, there's charity of $790,064. There's inspection fees in total amount $1,611, $469. $1,611,469.51.
Moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay. Moving to public comments and concerns, another opportunity for members of the public. And Susie, I failed to ask you the first time, anyone on YouTube? Nope. Okay. So board members, I am gonna call for an adjournment to this meeting, but I have spoken to the town attorney, and we are going to have a attorney-client session upstairs following this meeting. So this time entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, everyone, for your attendance.